Alrighty. Hello and welcome. Good evening. Hey, I want to start off by before I go into anything else. I want to start off by sending my prayers and my wishes out to all the families and people who are kind of dealing with this new surge, if you will, with COVID-19. It is it is messing a lot of people up. It really is. It's hurting a lot of businesses. It's hurting a lot of families, and it doesn't care. It doesn't care whatsoever. So I wanted to start with that and to let you guys know that Retail Leadership with Steve Worthy, we have you guys in our prayers. Hey, welcome so much. It's been a little bit. It's been a while, but I'm excited to kind of end the year off. We actually have a couple of things transpiring this week. We have tonight where we're going to be talking about the end of 2021, and then also just want to talk a little bit about what we have going on coming up on Wednesday as well. So welcome. I am Steve Worthy, host of Retail Leadership with Steve Worthy. We focus in on retail leaders, helping you understand how to communicate better so that you can advance within your culture and then you can grow your career. We truly know that the decisions of a retail leader impact everybody, every day, all around the world. And so we are here to help retail leaders and also people who are either outside of retail understand a little bit more about leadership and then how their leadership impacts their team. So tonight, we are going to be talking a little bit about how do we end the year well in 2021, but then also how do we start 2022 well. Now I have a couple of things that I'm going to be talking about tonight, and I'll be honest with you, I am not going to probably give you what you anticipate in the context of there are so many things out there where people are talking about, whether it is from goal setting standpoint, things along that line. We want to focus in on how do we help you understand who you are, because who you are as a leader truly, we feel, impacts everything that takes place as you end the year, but then also as you move into next year as well. So having said that, we have a couple of awesome things going on this week. We actually have tonight, of course, we'll be talking about tonight, but then also on Wednesday. So before I get into everything, on Wednesday, we have my good friend, good buddy. We have been trying to get together for a while, and I'm excited to finally connect with Mr. Chip Baker. And we are going to be talking about the impact of influence, which is his book. And we're going to be going kind of deep into some of his thoughts and his processes around influence, and then how that applies to you as a leader as well. Hey, if you are out there in the community, if you're listening to this, please just say hello in the comments. If you have a question, please make sure that you actually go ahead and put a Q in front of that as well. So that way we can actually answer your questions or make sure that we address your comments appropriately tonight. So we're excited to talk to you today. So let me say this. So how do you end the year well? There's so many different ways that you can end the year well. Before we do that, how are you doing, Mr. JP? How are you doing? Actually, I got to make sure I get this sorted. There we go. How are you doing, Mr. JP High Tech? Good to see you, sir. Good to see you. So how do you end the year well? What does it mean to end the year well? right? There's so many different books, there's so many different gurus out there talking about ending the year well, ending in the context of making sure that you've kind of accomplished all your goals, right? So goals are going to be something that I probably won't touch upon tonight, but and I'll explain about that a little bit later. So one of the first things that you have to do, you have to assess where you are relative to where you want it to be. So that is the first thing in finishing strong. Can I say this though? You can't assess you can't assess where you want to be if you did not take the necessary time at the beginning of the year or at the beginning of the quarter or whatever it may be to understand where it is that you want to be, right? There's nothing to assess if you haven't done the work initially. So please understand that. I think when we start to talk a little bit about the assessment part is that we have to understand that we have to take the time, and that is the hardest part. Writing down those things, that those goals or those projects, those things that you want to get accomplished. You have to take the time to do that, because if you can't do that, then there is nothing for you to assess. So let's say you've done that. Let's say you have assessed where you currently are or where you want it to be, right? The biggest piece that you have to assess is how, a couple of things, is how you were able to treat people along the way. And more importantly, who did you actually help to actually get to the goal that you wanted to get to? So the assessment part for me, right? So I told you I'm not going to tell you what you wanted to hear. The assessment part for me is always not just about the end goal, but it's always about the journey. It's about the role that you played within that journey to get to where it is that you wanted to get to where it is that you wanted to be, and who was along the ride was along for the ride with you. So the assessment part has to deal with a little bit of your heart, has to deal with a little bit of your ability to lead people properly and to develop talent properly and to assess properly. So have you done that process yet? This is a great time of year to do this, right? In retail, we are coming near the tail end of our year. We probably have, for most of us, even though the December, from the calendar standpoint, means that we are going to be towards the end of the year from a calendar standpoint, but we're not at the end of the year from a sales standpoint. But what we're doing at this point in time, we are actually taking the time to assess our team, right? If you are not writing self evaluations or you're writing your own evaluations, right? I would ask that you go ahead and start doing that. So this is the perfect time to do it. And you need time to sit down and actually look at your KPIs, look at the things from a financial operational standpoint that you are responsible for, also from a talent standpoint, and then sit down and understand a little bit more about where you are relative to those goals that you set earlier in the year. But once again, if you haven't done the homework, if you haven't done the work at the very beginning, then there's nothing for you to assess. All right. Hello. Hey, how are you doing? I'm not sure who you are. I'm gonna check and see. We got some time here. I'm gonna say, hey Gina, how are you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Hey Gina, if you have any questions or anything, or JP, any one of you guys or anybody else that's in the chat, please go ahead and make sure you. I know there's a little bit of a lag time, but go ahead and make sure you drop a question in there or a comment, and I will make sure I get to that, because we're going to be talking a little bit more about where you are and how do you end the year strong, from and then as you move into 2022 as well. So we talked about assessing, right? We talked a lot about assess where you are relative to where it is that you want to be, right? We talked about that. So now let's talk a little bit about something else. Change your mindset and focus on your progress. Change your mindset and focus on your progress, right? So one of the major things that a lot of leaders that I know fail to do is to think about the necessary changes that they need to make within their leadership to get the results that, one, that they wanted to achieve for this year, but then secondly, What do you need to do differently for next year? Okay. I know we haven't gotten into next year yet, but this is gotten into how do you start 2021, excuse me, 2022. Well, yeah, we haven't gotten into that, right? But I want you to understand the idea that you have to understand those things that you need to change within yourself first as a leader. Here's why. Because this year, this last 2 years probably have been something that we will probably never see again. Knock on the proverbial wood, right? These are things that you probably will not see again. And if you did not take the time to adapt and change your leadership over the last couple of years, as we move into 2022, a lot of those skills that you needed to utilize to get yourself and to get your team through the year are going to need to be cemented in who you are as a leader in 2022. And what are some of those things? Those are empathetic listening, right? Understanding a person's plight, putting yourself in their shoes, right? Quick decision making, being candid with your communication. I did a episode and it's called Post Pandemic Leadership. So I ask that you go ahead if you want to take a listen to that. We talk a lot about some of the leadership skills that are going to be necessary as we move into 2022 and beyond, and some of those leadership skills that you are going to need to be successful as a leader as well. So, a couple of things that I wanted to make sure that we address and say hi to a couple of people that are out here as well, too, before we move forward. Okay, sure thing. All right, absolutely. I appreciate you saying you will assessment equals review of completed work. Yes, right. You know, JP, I think that's before I continue on with the whole change piece. I completely agree. Right, the assessment aspect is is that have you completed something? Right, you can't assess something that sometimes. Well, and I'll back out of that because and here's why. Because I was in project management for a while, and a lot of times we did assessments along the way of that project. And within the guise of that project, there is this thing, and I'm going to put on my project management hat for a second because I think this applies to the assessment conversation, is that there's this thing, it's called earned value. So as the project progresses, there is value that is attached to that project at various milestones, various benchmarks. There is actual physical, financial, fiduciary value that's actually ascribed to that project at different points. And I always found that interesting because I took the same thing and applied it to my life as a leader as I start to think about the journey. Because if we're not being active, I'm going to talk about that here in a second. If you're not being active in your journey and you're not adding different value pieces for who you are along your journey, then guess what? You're not adding any value. You are kind of just staying the same, right? And so as we go along this assessment journey, there needs to be an assessment of the progress that you've made, but there also needs to be assessment of the completed work as well. So if you're tracking with me, say you're tracking with me, and I appreciate that. So getting back into the idea of change your mindset, focus on your progress. The progress piece is something that could also be, in certain instances, debilitating because you start to think about in the context of the paralysis of analysis. And we don't want you to think about it in that way. We don't want you to think about the fact that when we start talking about the progress and you just get caught up into kind of where you are, we're thinking about progress in the context of the end result of whatever it is that you're doing. I'll give a great example. I'll give you my personal example is that, um, I put on a little COVID weight, right? And I'm not my normal self. And so for me, starting back in the gym and everything was kind of the hardest part. But now that I've actually started it, now I'm actually able to kind of track my progress. And I'm excited about the progress because I do have an end goal in mind. So making sure that you are taking the time to actually track your progress, understand where you are, but enjoy the journey along the way. I had a client, I had a coaching client, and had a personality that for me was, he had a great personality. He had a mindset that he was excited about getting things done, right? He was focused on the next project. He was focused on the next assignment, the next promotion. Understandable, right? I can appreciate that. But what we worked with him on and what I helped him with was helping him understand the journey, helping him understand the process that he needs to enjoy to the end result that he's going to be going after. And here's what happened. It slowed him down. There's a saying that I've heard a long time ago, and I initially couldn't stand it because I was like, this just doesn't make any sense. But what we did, we slowed him down so he could speed up. We slowed him down so that he can speed up. The tendency is that we get so fast and we get so focused in on the end result and trying to go after that end result, we don't take time to enjoy the journey. So as we start talking about that whole earned value piece, let me bring that back into the overall equation. So it once we slowed him down, he was able to look at himself a little bit more microscopically and look at things that he was struggling with. And so once we were able to do that, he was able to see little idiosyncrasies in his communication style, in his nonverbal, all these little things that he didn't take time, he didn't stop to think about. So guess what? When we started doing that, and he started to apply some of these different tools into his toolbox, his level of approachability increased dramatically. His level of connection with his team increased dramatically. And so guess what that did? That just accelerated everything. That accelerated his adoption for ideas with his team. It accelerated his perspective with his boss. But the other part of it is that he was writing a book, and slowing him down helped him write one of the best books that is out there right now, a children's book. So, having said that, is that I want people to understand that when we start to talk about changing your mind to focus on progress, it is not something that should be debilitating you. It should be something that you should be focused in on, because and taking the time to slow down, because you will learn more things along the way slowing down than you will if you actually kind of speed through. Okay. All right. I hope that's working with a couple people. We got a couple people out there saying that they're tracking. Um, JP's tracking with me. I appreciate that, JP. And everybody else is tracking. Excellent. Excellent. So we talked about assessment, talked about changing mindset, right? So identify things you can control. So I only got three things. Well, here's the thing. We have um, assessing, uh, excuse me, 2021, finishing 2021, right? The three things that we're going to talk about is going to be assess, change, and this is the last one, control. Control. Identify things you can control and change. All right, here's the thing with this one. There's so many people out there. They want to change everything. They want to change everything about themselves. They want to change everything about their circumstances. They haven't taken the time to really appreciate a little bit more about where they are. And they are in the mindset of like, well, if I just change this one thing, then I'll be great. Or if I can control the circumstances in this one situation, then guess what? I'll be fine. You can't do that. It is going to lead you down a rabbit hole where you think that you are in control and you are not in control, right? Here's the thing. As a leader, one of the things that I knew up with the bottom of my heart, a lot of times when you move into a leadership role, a lot of times you are not the leader. right? So if you are finishing this year and you are finishing this year as a new leader, new business unit, new store, new market, whatever it may be, I know if you're being honest with yourself, if you're doing a proper assessment of yourself, you realize that, man, I wasn't the leader for about 50% of the year. Someone else was, because at the end of the day, leadership is influence for us. That's how we define it. That's how we look at it. And a lot of times when you walk into the roles, you're not the one that has the influence. Someone else does. So if you are not taking the time to understand and assess that you didn't have the control, right? And now there are some things that you probably have to change about your leadership, right? You've assessed, right? You've assessed, you're thinking about changing and you're focusing in on the progress. So now you're focusing in on the things that you can identify that you can control and that you can change. So I'm gonna give you I'm gonna give you the answers to the test. I'm gonna give you the answers to the test. There are there are a few things. There are a few things that you can control. If you're tracking with me, if you have a question, if you have a comment or anything, please go ahead and put that in the chat, and we will definitely address it as well. How are you doing, sir? And Mr. James says he's right there. He's right here with me. He's tracking with me. I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you so much for being here as well. All right, cool. So, what can you control? What can you control? You control your beliefs, your attitudes, and your perspective. Your perspective, which for me, it equals your actions. Okay. I'm going to go back to these here in a second. So we have this thing. We have this thing. And I, I initially called it, this is a thing here at um, Worthy Retail You. We had this thing, and it's initially I called it the 2X identity shift. But as I started working with my VA, right, we started thinking about some other ways of talking about it. And she talked about it, calling it the 10X, yada, yada, yada. And what it really is, at the end of the day, it is us trying to help you shift your understanding a little bit more about, there it is. That's the one I'm looking for. The camera angle I'm looking for. I apologize. A couple of things. What we're trying to do is to help you understand that your beliefs beget your thoughts, and then your thoughts beget your actions. So helping you understand that. Let's go back to that. Let's go back to that here in a second. Your beliefs, your attitudes, your thoughts. I could have probably taken out attitudes and just kind of left thoughts in there as well too. But I wanted you to kind of get the gist of this as well. All right. So let's do this. Okay. So your beliefs. Man, everything from 2020 to 2021, if it hasn't probably shaped or changed maybe your beliefs. And I'm not talking about your core beliefs. I'm not talking about your core beliefs, right? Because your core beliefs are your core beliefs. I'm not talking about your core beliefs. I'm talking about certain things and how you see the world and how you see people and how you see processes and routines, all these things. So your beliefs probably have changed over the last couple of years, if you will, with everything that we've gone through. But these are things that you should think about, I think, every year to begin with, right? You should be thinking about this every year. Where do you stand in your beliefs with who you are as a person? With what do you want to get out of life? With how do you talk to people? With how do you work with people in your business? How do you want to grow your business? If you're a content creator, we got a lot of content creators in our community, right? What is the belief about your content? Does your content align with your belief? I have seen so many people who are creating content and creating things just because it's the cool thing to do, but it doesn't align with their core beliefs. And so guess what? It doesn't last. It doesn't last. So what are you believing about yourself? What are you saying about yourself? We say stuff about ourselves so much so that if someone said half the things that we believe about ourselves, we would probably want to fight them, right? Old school fighting, right? I'm not talking about this new school fighting. I'm talking about old school fighting, right? So we really would. And so you have to make sure that you take assessment, that you take, you're doing some introspection on your beliefs and who you are and everything that kind of transpired this year to actually get to you to where you are right now. Okay. Your attitudes and your thoughts. Oh man, what do you think about yourself? What do you think about yourself? As a man thinketh, so is he. This year, as we start to close this year out, what are your thoughts about how you carried yourself as a leader? How did you carry yourself as a leader? How did you? How did you present yourself to the world? How did you think about yourself and your actions that you had to take this year? I got to tell you, this year when we start to think about all the decisions that we had to make, right? Quickly, right? One of the things that I talk to my team about all the time this year was like, we have to do it regardless. We have to do what's best for the team. If they're sniffling, if they're doing something, send them home, right? If they're talking a little bit about their mom or their dad is struggling, we had people that were struggling with things outside of COVID. And so the mindset for me was always, how do we make sure that we're taking care of the team? And so my thought life, everything that I thought about, and it's not even just this year. My mindset is very similar to like that anyway. Is that how do we take care of the team? Because if we don't take care of the team right now, there's going to be no team for us in 2022. Because as a leader, you're only as good as your team. You are only as good as your team. And so you have to make sure that you're taking the time to understand a little bit more about your thought life and what you think about yourself. Because if you don't, guess what? Something's going to happen, and you want to make sure that that your that your belief systems and your thought life actually line up with everything as well too. All right. So this last one before we move into 7:30, I'm making good time. I'm only gonna be here for an hour. I'm making pretty good time. I feel like I'm making some good time. All right. And JP says, all right, this is let me go back over here. JB says, this fire. this is this is fire. Subject on point. I appreciate you, sir. I appreciate you, sir. And someone says, good evening. I don't know if is that you? Is that you, Mr. Walter? Yes, it is, sir. How are you doing? If you have any comments or anything that you want to put up here or thoughts, please don't hesitate whatsoever. Uh, old school fight. That's right, man. Old school fight. I don't know if you guys remember any of that stuff. Those were the days where you could fight somebody and, um, you can make up, the very next day and you guys were still friends. So that's the old school stuff I'm talking about. All right. So your actions, man, your actions. What steps are you taking? What steps did you take this year? What steps did you physically take and also mentally take to achieve your goals, achieve your thoughts, achieve your growth, your growth in leadership? So this year for me, man, um, I'm going to I'm going to tip my hand a little bit because we're going to talk about this here in a second. This year, it showed me and it really taught me that honestly, and if I do an assessment and I think about my actions, my beliefs, my thoughts, and my actions, it really showed me that I have not been operating in my full capacity. How many of you would agree with that? How many of you, if you do a firm assessment of yourself this year, assessment, looking at the things that you can change and understanding your progress, and then also thinking about the things that you can control. As I think about the things that I had the ability to control this year, which were my beliefs, my actions, and my beliefs, my thoughts, and my actions, I near the tail end of the year, and then sporadically at the beginning of the year, started to give a full account of myself, right? I started to kind of move into those things that I felt that were Steve. And I'm moving into them wholeheartedly now. And so as you start to think about your year, how would you assess yourself? How would you assess from a earned value? If you're just catching this one, you gotta maybe check out a replay. We talked a little bit about this project management term called earned value, which is understanding the progress of a project. Um and in this context we talked about it as progress for yourself. Did you take steps along the way to earn value in your leadership? And then also the assessment of a completed project, as JP pointed out. And then what are the things that you had to change from your mindset standpoint, and then you had to focus in on your progress? How did you do that? Did you do a great job of that? Did you get lost in the process? Did you get lost in the outcome and just getting stuff done? Right. I got a great example for this one. So, and I'm going to get to the last one here in a second. I got a great example for this one. So, I was doing a some this podcast for, of course, for retail leadership with Steve Worthy, and I was behind, and so I was like, dude, okay, I'm gonna help me get this episode out, and I normally 99% of the time I don't script my podcast. I do bullet points because I know the content and I know what I want to say, and I do bullet points and I make sure I hit those points. This one I kind of scripted out a little bit, and I did it. I got her done, put it out there, and then good buddy of mine. I was focused in on. Well, I'll get to that in a second. A good buddy of mine listened to the podcast, listened to the episode, and he was like, "Dude, great. It was good content, but it sounded like you were reading off a script." Man, I could have died. I could have died. And here's why I could have died: because I was, because I was literally reading off the script, and there are some ab libbing things along that line, but I was reading off the script, and he could tell. And because I wasn't my authentic self, I was so focused in on getting something done that I didn't enjoy or put forth the work and the progress and the process to get done something I would normally take the time. And then guess what? The outcome and the result wasn't me. It wasn't anything. It wasn't anything that represented myself. So hopefully that makes sense as well. And then, of course, the last thing that you can change are going to be your beliefs, your attitudes, and then your thoughts as well. All right, cool. So let's get to a couple of comments in here. Yes, sir, it's me. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I got to change that. I got to change this comment color as well, too. Yes, you guys are tracking. The end of the year was more progressive um, than the first part. And why is that? Why is that? I want to know, why do you think the end of the year? Because that, for me too, right? I can go ahead and share my thoughts on this, but this is about you guys. So what were your thoughts when you say that the end of the year? I'm gonna put the last comment up. The end of the year was more progressive than the first part. Was it the fact that you were kind of finding your niche? Was that you did an assessment of yourself and you realized that, hey, I wasn't, walking in what I was truly kind of called to be? Did you deal with some imposter syndrome that you finally, kind of utilized to your advantage to kind of grow your brand and to grow your mindset and to kind of springboard you into where you are? All these things are great reasons for why the last part of this year were probably better for me, if you will. So Walter, if you wanna put that on there, let me know, please. I appreciate it, and then we'll do that. All right. So before we move into 2022, just a reminder that this Wednesday, we have Chip Baker, and we are going to be talking about, of course, the impact of influence. He has an amazing book. He's an inspirational speaker. Here's the thing, he's more than an inspirational speaker. I think that one's get tossed around too much, right? He gives you things in your life that you are really going to need as a leader. He talks to a lot of students, but he also talks to tons and tons of business leaders about who they are and about the level of influence that they have, not just in their own life, but also in the lives of others. So please make sure you join us on this Wednesday. We are going to be closing out the year strong. I'm really excited to be talking to my buddy here. So please be on the lookout for that. Information is going to be either on YouTube as well as in the Facebook group. And speaking of that, right? So if you are looking at this on YouTube and you are not part of our Facebook group, we ask that you go ahead and become a member of our Facebook group. It's an amazing community where people are there growing and sharing ideas. But here's the other thing that's actually really cool is because even though it says retail, it says worthy retail you coaching. We have so many people that are in that group that are not in the retail world. Because at the end of the day, we talk about leadership and we talk about your growth and we talk about who you are as a person. Because I firmly believe the more you know about yourself, the more you can say no to certain things, and you can truly focus in on what's best for your life. And so as a community, Facebook community, those are the things that we kind of focus in on as well. And if you're looking at this on Facebook, I ask that you go ahead and go over to YouTube. You can look it up at Steve Worthy, and then go ahead and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are quickly trying to grow to 100, because I feel like after I feel like after we hit the 100 mark, we'll start to gain some more momentum for our YouTube channel as well. So I'm pretty excited about that. We got a lot of great things that are on tap as well. We have over 600 people in in our LinkedIn group for Worthy Retail You, which is amazing. Over like 600 people. And if you are not part of that group, I ask that you go ahead and go over there and make sure that you're part of that group as well. So, and then everything that you see here tonight, and we're going to be getting into 2022 here in a sec. Everything that you see here tonight, the overlays, all of the graphics, everything is from Ecamm. Ecamm Live is our live streaming platform of choice. I've tried them all, I've used them all, and we always go back to Ecamm. It's amazing. The founders are awesome, and I got to tell you what, it is one of the best platforms that you will ever use to go live. If that's something that you're thinking about, we can help you with that as well too. All right, cool. So we got a big comment over here before we move into 2022. So I want to I'm going to put this on the screen up here actually. Here you go. I think it was a season of synergy with people projects, and my honest assessment of what I accomplished so far, and wanting to make sure I finish strong, at the end. So so I needed to reverse that and start methodically. Yes, be at above momentum in the summer, and then even better than this year. 100%, 100%, 100%. And then what's this on? I love the look of before I have a PC. Uh, do you recommend do you have a recommendation on PC? Oh, I'm sorry. Do you have a recommendation on PC? Whew, man, good question. Um, so I'm a Mac. I'm a Mac person. Here's what happened. Here's what happened. Um, I wasn't a Mac person for a long time. My buddy who does a lot of graphic design work, he had been trying to get me a Mac for the longest, and for that reason, because he was a graphic design person, I was like, dude, that's for like artists, and just give me a Dell, HP like any day, right? And what I started to realize, I think I got, my first iPad, and then I next thing you know, I got a MacBook, and then I got an iMac, and now I'm all up in their ecosystem. I am all up in their ecosystem, like except for the monitors and everything you see here. Um, there's a Mac Mini that powers everything. that we utilize here. So sorry, I can't really recommend a PC. Um, I left that world a while ago, man, and I honestly I haven't turned back. I haven't turned back. Oh, I love the look of Ecamm. There you go. Oh, sorry, I got you, Ecamm. No problem. No problem. LOL. I see. Mac is good. Mac is good. It is good. It is good. Um, I think I'm where you were. All right. Yeah, yeah. It was. It took me a while. It took me a while. The quality, and the other thing, I got tired of all the viruses, and I'm saying that Mac is like bulletproof, but that was also another piece for me as well. All right. So it is 7:43. So let's go ahead and move into 2022. All right. So let me grab some water. So I know a lot of you think I'm going to be starting out with set goals, right? Set goals, goals. Write them down, make them plain, all this stuff, right? Not going to do that. Not going to do that. Not going to do that. Here's what I'm going to start with. How self aware are you? How self aware are you? This is 2022 we're talking about moving into. How self aware are you? So as you want to start the year strong. You want to start 2022 strong. You are going to have to understand more about who you are as a person, as a leader, a content creator, whatever it may be. And you have to understand and you have to be self aware. That is the ability to understand how you react personally, internally, externally, with people in various situations. You you have to get that, right? Because if you do not understand, I can walk into and a situation that I may not particularly care for. This is this is the Steve now. I can walk into a situation and I know how I want the outcome to be, and I can create it as such because I will carry myself in such a fashion and work through it in such a way that I will make sure that the outcome is one, mutually beneficial for myself and the other person, but also how I carry myself through that process is super important. The old Steve was rambunctious, strong minded, strong willed, and I still am, but didn't care about, um, I guess, how can I say this? Didn't care about how and how I got to the end result. Didn't matter. We got there. But my ability to understand a little bit more about myself and become a little more self-aware because I was able to assess myself at the beginning of the year. Please understand and track with me. You assess, you're right. Look at the progress, and you start thinking about the things that you can control. And now, guess what? Now you start to move into this idea and concept of self awareness because there are certain things that you probably have to change about yourself. That you have to look deeper within yourself. Self awareness is, for me, and in emotional intelligence. Whenever I think about a leader, I'm thinking about somebody that I want to have on my team. I kid you not. And I'm not even saying this because it's on the screen. Self awareness is number one for me, bar none. Your ability to understand who you are and understand who you are in various situations is so critical as a leader. It is probably one of the number one things that will prevent you from failure. Get that. It will prevent you from failure as a leader, as a content creator, as a husband, as a wife, as a minister, right? Your ability to understand who you are as a person, it's one of those things when you see it, right? When you see self-awareness in a person and their ability to, doesn't matter who's in the room, right? I have worked alongside and reported to CEOs. I've worked with CEOs of big companies, all of these things. So initially I get enamored, but then as I started to kind of understand a little bit more about myself and what I bring to the table, my level of self awareness just grew. And I wasn't nervous to get into those rooms anymore. Just not. So before you jump in and you want to start 2022 off with a bang, you have to understand self awareness. You have to understand a little bit more about who you are and what you bring to the table. All right, here we go. All right, this is the word, and I'm gonna probably be doing an entire episode on this one, on this word, as well. Intentionality. What's your word for 2022? What is your word for 2022? I every year I have a word, and this one I've already started moving in with this word. It's moving in with this word. Like this is like my girlfriend. Like I've already started moving with this word. Intentionality. Intentionality is being deliberate and moving with intent. And I don't like to use the same word that it's the definition, but it's moving with is being deliberate and moving with purpose. Right. Everything that you do, you need to move with purpose. And here's the one thing. I when I'm walking, so I'm started walking and going to the gym, doing some other things. I have this thing, and I call it walk thoughts. So there are things that it's like like if you're in the shower, you come up with some brilliant stuff in the shower. When you're walking, when I'm walking and working out, there are great things that kind of come to me, and so this I should have put it on the screen, and I forgot to put it down, but I'm gonna see if I can find it here. Um oh my gosh. I am trying to find it. It was such a great point. Um oh wow. Oh wow, I thought I wrote it down. I I guess I didn't. Oh man. Oh, I hate that. Don't you hate that? Don't you hate that? It was such a great point. We start talking about intentionality. And one of the things that you have to understand about yourself is that um, are you going to are you going to move with purpose, and are you going to be deliberate? I like if you had to look at it, on a scale of purpose and being deliberate, right? Please understand this: the purpose and being deliberate. uh, I please don't get mad at me when I say this, right? I honestly, the older I've gotten, the older I've gotten, because if you have a better measure of self-awareness, right? And then as we always say, when you understand more about yourself, you can say no to certain things, right? So I am going to say that when you start to think about intentionality and as a scale from being your purpose, being deliberate, I would almost tell you to move and be more deliberate than the purpose piece. I told you I was going to tell you some stuff that you didn't think that you didn't you didn't know I was going to say, because and this is why I say this, is because if you know about yourself and you know what you want to accomplish, you know your weaknesses, you know your strengths, right? You've done the work, right? You got a coach. I got a coach. I got a podcast coach, and I got an executive coach that helped me with certain things. And so I have a pretty decent understanding of who I am a little bit. The piece that I was missing was the being more deliberate in the intent of what it is I wanted to get accomplished. So I would almost think, if you are out here and you're thinking about where you currently are, where you want to go, and you're thinking about intentionality, right? If you're thinking about intentionality, I would almost tell you to focus on the deliberate part more so than the purpose. And I know that's so wrong. And I know so many other people say talking about the purpose, right? But man, if you know who you are and you put the work in, right? Man, you need to be more deliberate. You need to step more into who you are, right? There needs to be, a more uh, fixed, mindset on who you are and what it is that you want to step into, right? Because that's the issue. I got this camera thing. I'm not digging this camera angles, um, or the box that I'm using right now for this. So it's a lesson learned for me for next for next live stream, right? You have to be deliberate. You have to be deliberate and you have to be intentional. What's your word? What's your word for 2022? Put it in the chat. I want to know your word and why that's your word for 2022. All right. Be active. Be an active participant in your journey. So as we move into 2022, time is up. And this is you, I hope you see in the thread. I'm hoping you are seeing the thread of what we're talking about. All right. If you're not seeing the thread, please let me know that you're not seeing this thread. Hey, how are you doing, Angelica? Good to see you. If you are not seeing the thread with what I'm talking about, man. So, okay. Self awareness, intentionality. Now, be an active participant in your journey. This is 2022 we're talking about. So, you got to get this. I am not going to talk to you, sit and tell you about goals. I'm not going to sit down and tell you to write out your goals, all this stuff. It is not, because this has to be about you. This has to be about who you are as a person and as a leader and and content creator, whatever it is, that your profession. It has to be about who you are and what you want to get accomplished. So everything that I'm talking about tonight deals with you as an individual. Be an active participant in your journey. We are all on a journey. Now, each and every one of us. Doesn't matter what that journey is, but to be active, but to be an active participant in your journey, things will happen to you if you do not take the time to be intentional and deliberate about your steps, about the people that you connect with, about the books that you read, the podcasts that you listen to, the live streams that you listen to, the content that you create, the individuals that you coach, the team that you want to train and develop, the recruitment, the people that you want to bring on your team, right? That is the active participant aspect of what you need to be focused in 2022 to start the year off. You need to start this process now. Well, how many more days we got left in this year? What is this? We got 3 more days left, and you got to start this process. And you have to be continuously uh, active, right? You always have to look for opportunities to grow yourself on your journey. You have to take the time to do it. I just started again. Um, and I fell off. I fell off big time. And I was doing morning um meditation, you know, you know, reading scripture and then also taking time to kind of clear my head space every morning. And last year, I can be very honest with you. Last year, didn't do it. I was bad at it. Um, it was spotty. There wasn't any substance to it, right? And so, one of the things I realized was that I had to I had to end this year with a focus on trying to get better at that aspect of my life. And I feel like I've been able to actually do that. Let me just do one thing here, making sure that we're all set. Um, where's that? There we go. All right. I realized that I wasn't doing that part of my life was missing, and for me to really step more and more into my purpose and be deliberate, I had to get back that time, and I had to start that process of again. And so I started it. And I got to tell you what, it has been one of the most refreshing things that I've actually been able to do that centers me. I'm not, that I guess it sets a tone for me for the day, but it also clears my mind of clutter. And then there's a lot more clarity that I have in my life, and it has provided a sense of calm, even though I run mentally like 200 miles an hour. It has provided a sense of calm for me. So, being an active participant in your journey, you have to be adaptable to those things that will provide guidance and peace for you along the way. If you're not doing that, then guess what? You're going to continue to run into certain situations that are not going to be favorable to you. And so you have to take that time. I can relate it. It's okay. We got to get back up again. We fall down, but we get up. Yeah, that's so true. That's right. That's true. The morning routine is critical, to how your day turns out. Oh, it is. It is. And because that goes back to this idea of being an active participant, allowing, you know, a lot of times, and I'm just going to speak for myself, a lot of times I was allowing my day to happen to me. I was still being active, still doing stuff, right? But I wasn't really focused in on initially the initial foundation of who Steve is, and then allowing everything else to kind of build on top of that. I was building, and then trying to take the time to set that foundation, right? Hopefully you guys get that. You gotta set the foundation first, but a lot of times we start building, and that morning routine, that time, taking that time in that space is the foundation, and then you can start building on top of that. And hopefully, you're building on, I was saying, but you're building on a firm foundation. So that's something that wasn't doing enough of, and now I've started back, and I've already seen the results from being more deliberate in my life. All right, the last piece, and then we're gonna close this puppy up. Commit and go all in. Commit and go all in. I know that sounds super Pollyannish. Sounds like like I'm a football coach, and I am a coach, but not a football coach, right? But you gotta commit and go all in this year, right? And you have to have, this is a mindset. This isn't something that you just put on your wall. There's a show that I'm going to keep recommending it to more and more people watch it. It's called Ted Lasso. It's about an American um, college football coach who goes over to England. Um, he goes over to England to coach what we call soccer, what they call football. And anyway, there's a big part. There's a poster that he has on the wall that says "Believe." And a lot of people, when he first went over there, they didn't get it. They weren't like, "Oh my gosh, here's this wacky, American over here with all of their sayings and all this other stuff." But it turned into something a little bit more because there was action that he helped the team apply to that. So their belief, to my points earlier, their beliefs changed their thought life, and then their thought life changed their actions and how they perceive themselves. So when you start to think about this idea of commit, I'm going to change this camera. And when you start to think about this idea of commit and go all in, it's not just something nice to put on your board. There has to be action associated with this. There has to be something that's heartfelt inside of you that you want this to happen. that you want this to, I want to say for this to be your year, right? Everybody says that, right? 2020, right? When the year of vision, right? Everybody said that. In 2021, nope. Oh, it got to get better. Nope, it didn't. I mean, it did in certain situations, right? 2022, oh my gosh, here we go. Let's do this. Let's do this again, right? We can say this stuff all day long. We can say it all day long. It is not about saying stuff. It is about, yes, you can say commit and go all in, but it is a mindset, and are your actions lining up with your level of commitment or the things that you want to commit to? Commitment to yourself and watch what happens. Commit to yourself and watch what happens. Amen. Yes, sure did. 2020. Right? Everybody's like, use a year of vision. Oh my gosh, everybody's doing this and stuff. And it's like, boom, it didn't happen that way, right? For a lot of us, because stuff was crazy. Stuff was crazy. You know, 2021, it was crazy too. Now we're into 2022. Excuse me, 2021, it's getting crazy. How are you going to move into 2022, right? Are you committed to your process? Are you committed to yourself, right? That someone just put in the chat. Are you committed to yourself? If you are not committed to yourself and what you want to get accomplished, man, I don't even know why you're listening to this. I really don't. 2020 was the year of realignment. Yeah. Yeah. You know, I think, um, oh my gosh. Um, Monique Russell was on my show. Got to go look at that episode. She's an amazing, amazing leader, great communicator, and I am trying to remember what she said. And because they are calling this, everybody calls this the Great Resignation, right? I want to say she didn't call it she didn't call it that. I think she wanted to. I think she almost used the term realignment, so to speak, because this year, last 2 years have caused people to pause, has caused us to really have gain a better understanding about who we are and what we want in life. And this is why I am so adamant about everything that we talked about tonight, because it is about you, right? And here's what let me get this, because I'm going to talk out both sides of my neck here for a second. It is about you in the context of you trying to improve yourself as a leader, as a person, as a content creator, right? Retail is hard. It's hard. It's tough. But here's the other thing that I got to say this, and this is why I'm talking on both sides of my neck. It's because it's not about you, right? This whole leadership thing, everything that we do, everything that we learn, everything that we talk about, everything that we deal with and that we consume, the experiences that we consume, and the byproduct of that is for somebody else. What we've learned about ourselves during the last couple of years, right? It's not about us, right? It's for us, but it's not about us. And please understand that, because the more you give of yourself, the better and the bigger your influence will be with others. And so as we start to close 2021, I need you to understand that your level of commitment and understanding about who you are is extremely important. Have you assessed who you are? Have you looked at the things that you have been able to change? Have you looked at the progress that you've made? And then what are those things that you've been able to control, right? Your beliefs, your attitudes, and your thoughts. Now, we are about to move into 2022. Are you self aware? Do you even know what that means? Have you even taken the time? And when I say that, I'm not saying that you don't know what it means. I mean, do you know what it means to truly be self aware? It's a different ball game, man. It's a different ball game when you know yourself, and your ability to be able to communicate in different circumstances and different situations. It's a game changer. It is a game changer. Let me just make sure I get to the comments. 2020 was a year of realignment. Yep. That's what Angelica said. Yeah, hadn't heard that before. Thanksgiving sharing. Yep. Thanksgiving for sharing. All right, 100%, 100%. It's never about you. It's never about you, right? But I think we think it is. We're developing these platforms, right? A lot of people started podcasts. A lot of people started live streaming. A lot of leaders left and started their own businesses. All this stuff, great stuff, great stuff. But we can't get lost in the idea that this is all about us, and that as a leader, what we do and what we say is about us. It's about those people that we lead, and we have to make sure that as we close the year, we have to close it out strong. But when we move into 20, but when thanks for sharing. Okay, no worries. But when we move into 2022, right? You got to take the gloves off and you got to commit. But the only way you're going to be able to commit is that if you know who you are, if you're an active participant in your journey, and then you are moving with intentionality, because those are the things that are going to make you successful. Those are the things that are going to make 2022 one of the best years for you, for everything that you are trying to get accomplished. I'm excited to hear about your year. I'm excited to learn more and more about you. I ask that you, if you're in one of our communities, if you're in our LinkedIn community or our Facebook community, I ask that you be an active participant in that group, in those groups. You can post something. I ask that you provide any feedback or any thoughts, even subject matters and topics that you may want to hear. We got a lot of stuff coming up this year because we got a lot of requests for different content from other people. Conflict at work, um, dealing with poor leaders, dealing with your own poor leadership. Oh, man. Listen to me. Man. We got some serious content that we are going to be delivering to you guys this year, and we're going to be really focused in and niche down on some retail leaders, interviewing more and more retail leaders. But there's going to be so much more for you to gain as well. So we ask. Oh, there we go. As we close tonight, good topics. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So as we close tonight, you know, I want to make sure I get the last comments as well. I'll be I'll be there in the group. Yeah, 2022, 2022. I'm being intentional about stewarding authentic relationships. That's great. Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah, authentic relationships is the name of the game, and then authenticity, right? We say this all the time with Worthy Retail You. Authenticity has no competition. I don't have one of my shirts on tonight. I should have had one of my shirts on tonight. Um, and I didn't talk about our merch store tonight either. But if you go to prestonso.com/worthy retail you could look up every one of our pieces of gear. Um, Really, we focus in on two things right now, which is authenticity has no competition, and then also knowing your worth. Right? It's important. Everything that we talked about tonight was talking about kind of leading into authenticity and also knowing your worth. Because if you don't know your worth, you're going to fall for anything. And then 2022 is just going to pass you by. And we don't want that to happen. We want you to be an active participant in your journey. So, as we often say, we thank you so much because we all always know that the retail leaders, right, they impact everybody every day all over the world. And you do as well. Have a great night and God bless.